Who could ever forget the green-tunicked Hylian of Nintendo lore? One of the giants of the video game industry, a face recognized worldwide. A hero known far and wide for his masterful use of his signature tool. The fabled weapon used to defeat his enemies since the beginning of his games. That's right, everyone knows of legendary hero Link, and the mythical, wondrous Crossbow that he uses. Wait, what? No, that's right. There came a time in the olden days, good old 2007, when Nintendo released a game that had their green boy using a crossbow. God, that was 19 years ago. Wow. Anyways, this game came with a Wii Zapper, which the player placed a Wiimote and a nunchuck inside. Then they used it to shoot targets on a screen. It was called Link's Crossbow Training, and despite the fact that it was a Zelda game, I never hear anyone discussing it. And whenever I bring it up with people, I'm always met with confused stares and well-meaning corrections that, actually, Link uses a bow, not a crossbow. Which is a crying shame because the game was actually an absolute blast to play. It was based heavily in the locations and themes of Twilight Princess, and it had 9 levels, each with 3 stages. Usually these stages consisted of target practice, defender, and ranger. In target practice, the player generally moves the cursor around a mostly fixed screen, shooting targets until time runs out, or until they shoot them all. Hitting the target gives 10 points for red targets and 50 points for yellow targets. But if you hit a bullseye, you're rewarded triple points. There's also a combo multiplier that increases for each successful target shot. It's lost if a player misses a shot. The combo is also lost if the player hits an X target, which will also cost points. This combo is incredibly important for having high scores in the game, as losing it can often be the difference between having 5,000 points and 112,000 points. Values really can swing that drastically, and oftentimes, playing against a skilled opponent, if you lose a combo, you're essentially done. Once the first screen is complete, which usually takes 20 seconds on the timer, the game will automatically transition to the next screen, where the player once again attempts to hit all targets. After another 20 seconds, the game transitions to the final screen, and if the player has successfully destroyed all targets, then they're rewarded a Triforce at the end, which provides an additional 5,000 points. Some groups of targets can be destroyed more easily using bomb arrows, which are charged by holding the fire button. That said, the game does fire a bolt before it begins charging, so a player has to be careful not to lose their multiplier when charging a bomb arrow. That's the basics of the target practice mode, but there's one critical, almost hidden thing that is both incredibly important and easy to overlook. Scarecrows. See, when scarecrows appear in the map, they can be shot in the chest for 1 point. Each subsequent shot increases the amount of points by 1, up to a maximum of 8 per shot. At this point, the head, which has been inflating with each body shot, is now full. Shooting the head will grant 1,000 points. That's a great addition, but the real value of the Scarecrow is actually not in the points they add. Rather, in most cases, on the next target practice screen, another Scarecrow will spawn in. By shooting the Scarecrow's body 8 times and the head once, the player can gain another 1,000 points. They should be quick though, so that they can get both the Scarecrow and all the targets. But once again, these points are not the main point of the Scarecrow. After popping both Scarecrows, the game will bring the player to a different screen instead of the usual final third screen. This new screen is worth far more points, and missing a single Scarecrow can be akin to losing a multiplier when you're playing with opponents, because the point gain from some of these special zones, especially in underground target practice, is absolutely insane. Importantly, the Scarecrow has to be shot at max value in order to move on to the special zone. Shooting the head before it inflates all the way will not result in this special zone. There are target practice maps for Orden Village, Kakariko Village, Zoro's Domain, and many, many more. Some of the target practices are more specialized, but it's essentially the same thing. There's a Goron one where targets appear on Gorons who roll before revealing their target. There's also a level where targets are skulls, and the player is basically playing skeet. One of them involves shooting fruit balloons that turn into different balloons on impact. One is on horseback, one deals with Akka, or however it is those bird things are pronounced. Each level has its own difficulties and goals, and the creators did an amazing job at making sure they each felt unique and fun. The second type of level is Defender. These levels generally involve sitting in one spot and spinning in a circle, shooting at enemies that approach or encircle you. There is a multiplier for these as well, and it increases by hitting targets successfully. There's sometimes a Scarecrow on these levels too, but they don't unlock special zones this time. Importantly, shooting a Scarecrow will not cost you your multiplier, but it won't add to it either. In Defender missions, there are often green glowy enemies that can be shot to gain automatic, which allows for the crossbow to shoot rapidly. This effect is very useful for taking out hordes of enemies, but it also makes it difficult to maintain a combo, as the rapid fire makes it very easy to miss a shot. This automatic mode can also be bled out on a scarecrow body, as hitting one before popping the head will give 8 points each shot, and it will neither break nor will it destroy a combo. Similarly to target practice levels, Defender levels have very unique cases for each of them. Some of them involve shielded enemies that need bomb arrows to destroy. Some involve a mixture of flying and ground enemies. One in particular revolves around Skull Kids summoning puppets to attack the player. One takes place near Snow Peak with wolves coming after you. One is in a desert. And just like the target practice levels, each Defender level is unique and different, and the creators did an excellent job of making sure that the admittedly basic mechanic of turning and shooting didn't become stale from repetition. The third main game mode is probably the most complicated. Ranger levels involve using the zapper to move through the level and shoot specified targets. Ranger levels come with a radar to show the location of each enemy. And like the other modes, they have a multiplier that is increased with each successful hit on a target. The player moves with a nunchuck stick and turns and points with a zapper. The goal is to move through the world and take out the enemies wherever they are without missing any of them. In this case, there is added incentive to do it quickly as well. When the final enemy falls, the player gets a Triforce that adds to their score, and it includes a multiplier that's based on how much time is left on the clock. Finishing the level fast is key to gaining as many points as possible. Importantly, even after the last enemy falls, the player can continue to move around the map until time is up. This means that the best strategy is to kill the enemies with speed, and then move around the map and collect the rest of the points. There are jars that can be broken, some of which have a fairy or a rupee in them that'll add points. When rupees come out of jars, they float in the air for a little bit. They add more points the quicker they're shot. The most points a rupee will add is about 1,000, and it decreases depending on how long it takes the player to shoot it. There's usually also a scarecrow somewhere that can be found and used, though again, it won't actually unlock a special area in this mode. But extra time can generally be spent on a scarecrow if nothing else is around, shooting the body repeatedly until the last second, and then shooting the head for 1,000 points. Ranger probably has the most diverse levels of any of the others. Some Ranger levels involve walking through enemy camps. One involves invading Snow Peak Manor and has really cool and annoying ice enemies that hurl spears. One of them involves storming the forest and shooting spiders, which is made unique and difficult because the spiders can be on walls, hanging in the air on webs, or on the ground, and are oftentimes hard to spot immediately. They also have 2 health, meaning that they need to be shot twice, and shooting one out of the air makes it fall. If you're quick and careful, you can shoot a spider in free fall, making it so that you don't have to hunt it down for a second shot. But of course, if you miss it, it will destroy your combo. Another Ranger level involves hunting down enemies that are hiding inside of buildings in Hidden Valley. These guys are inside buildings, on roofs, in guard towers, and in alleys, and some have bows. Fighting them can be complicated and tricky, and it's easy to get lost on this map in particular. In addition, getting hit by one of their arrows will destroy your combo. One of the Ranger levels even involves playing in the Temple of Time from Twilight Princess, which is really cool. Yet of all the levels in the game, there are 2 special ones, one Defender and one Ranger, that are significantly more unique and amazing than the others. These are actually, believe it or not, boss fights. One is against Darknut, and one is against this guy. The Fossil Stalord. Yeah, everybody knows that name, right? The Darknut fight is a Ranger level, and it involves the same room that you fight Darknut in Twilight Princess. He swings a sword and creates an arc of bats that flies towards the player. Shooting them can defend Link, but Darknut is also vulnerable after his swing, which is when you need to shoot him to get behind his shield. After enough shots, he loses his shield and armor, and will then throw his sword at Link. Link can shoot it to deflect it and score some points, and then Darknut will leap around a little bit before attacking. When he attacks, Link can shoot him until he explodes into a cloud of bats. There are 3 glowing bats in the mix of all the black bats, and the player needs to shoot all 3 of them to progress the fight. Hitting one will cause Darknut to start to reform, but if you're quick, you can hit 2 of them before he successfully reforms, and then fight him again until you can turn him into bats once more and take out the last one. In fact, if you're careful and fast, you can actually hit all 3 of the glowing bats on the very first cycle. This is useful because after he reforms without any glowing bats alive, he'll attack once more, and then can be defeated. The faster Darknut is defeated, the more points are awarded to the player, so skipping out on 2, or even just 1, cycle of bats is incredibly helpful for point total. The second boss fight, the Fossil Stalard fight, now Stalord? I don't know. As I was saying, the second boss fight, the Fossil Stallard fight, is a defender level, and Link is stationary for it. He starts off far away, and slowly crawls closer. The player can see red glowing spots on his palms as he moves his hands, and by shooting them, they can make the Stallard stop and hold that hand up. Shooting it again causes it to change position. If the player shoots the hand enough times, it will dissolve into nothing, which will trigger an attack from the Stallard before he begins crawling forward again. Failure to shoot the hand in time will lead to him simply putting it back down and continuing to approach. Once the player takes out both hands, the Stallard will fall, and the player can shoot the head to do damage. After enough shots, the Stallard gets back up, and the cycle is repeated, this time at higher speed. On the third cycle, though, the fight is significantly different. Now, when the hands are shot, the Stallard will occasionally switch which hand is vulnerable, leading to a more complicated fight. Again, failure to shoot in time will cause the Stallard to lower his hands and continue his approach. Once Link successfully destroys his hands again, the Stallard falls over one last time, and Link can finish him off. Points are awarded once again based on how much time is left on the timer, so beating him quickly is recommended. This game, Link's Crossbow Training, was one of the strangest installments I have ever seen to the Zelda franchise. It wasn't a mainline game, didn't follow the mechanics of a Zelda game, and it didn't even come in the normal game case. If you remember the case that Wii Sports came in, way back in the day, that's the same way that Crossbow Training came packaged. Yet despite the strange and almost off-brand feeling that the packaging and mechanics had, the game itself was, and remains to this day, an absolute blast to play, even if few people have ever even heard of it. If you've never played it before, I would highly recommend giving it a try, although I have no idea how easy it would be to get your hands on a copy today. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. This was a very understated game in a very popular series, and it didn't get much attention even though it deserved it. But last time, I did a video on a game that definitely deserved attention, but got very little due to its relative obscurity. It has insane unique mechanics and amazing content, and if you want to learn about that game, check it out here.